welcome back to our Inside Highland Park School District Summer Conversations on School, Service, and Stewardship. We're looking at episode 2 today, and we're going to talk about the Unicorn District and why HPSD is different. So as we dive into that conversation this evening, there are a couple of things that we want to make sure that you are focused on, why we're not structured like most districts, and primarily what that means for good governance. So in this conversation, you have myself, Vanessa Gully. I am a governance consultant, and I'll be your moderator and host for this evening. We have President Cheryl Sanford, and we have Mr. Isaiah Petway, who is the Chief Educational Officer. So as we dive in, we want to leave you with unicorn. Why we are a unicorn. And so we want to explain in plain language what that means structurally and how we're different from other districts. So that is what we want to dive into. In addition to that, we want to make sure that you understand, even as we build on our session from 2 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, what it means to function as both a district and an authorizer and how that leans into what the board does. So good evening to all of you. And I want to also say good evening to our two guests. We want to make sure. Good evening. Good evening. It is wonderful to have you here again. I think it is going to be exciting. I think that we're going to have a great conversation, as we did for the last series or for the last session. So I'm looking forward to that. So many people, when they hear the word school district, they assume that all districts should operate the same and that they should be the same. But the reality is that Highland Park, it does not fit neatly into the traditional school district model. That is something that has occurred, and it's been that way for quite some time. So we want to take a moment to talk about the unique history, to talk about the structure and why we are calling it a unicorn. So let's begin with a really big question. Why is Highland Park, or we'll refer to the school district as HPSD, why is it called a unicorn district? President Sanford, can you kind of weigh in on that for a moment?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having us back. I assume we did well the last time.
Yeah. So absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And I appreciate the opportunity. This is to address this issue because it's a question that comes up quite frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the term unicorn very much. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very appropriate in terms of describing us because we are both an elected school board and we also authorize schools. Yeah. So we're a little bit different. We no longer operate traditional public schools in this district. We have not since emergency management in, I believe, 2012, 2013. Yes. And at the time the decision was made because of the overwhelming debt for the district to change us to an all charter district as a way for us to continue moving forward. So that's what we did. And I think it's very confusing for people to understand that we don't actually run the school district as a traditional public school district. We're a little bit different, but that doesn't mean that we're bad. Right. It just means that our structure is a little bit different. And I think sometimes it's very difficult for members of the public and some of our newly elected board members to understand that our role is a little bit different. And that's one of the reasons that it helps to have you working with us on the governance, so we understand our roles and responsibilities. We Absolutely. Basically provide the oversight, the vision for the district. We oversee our charter board, and they oversee the management company. So there are several different layers in Highland Park that makes us unique. And as long as we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that everybody understands their roles and responsibilities so that we can move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's the short answer.
And absolutely, I appreciate that answer. And one of the things, President Sanford, that I really appreciate is the fact that the district was under emergency management. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that, but the movement from being a traditional district to one that oversees charter schools was not a punishment, but it was truly an
Yes.
opportunity. And it's an
Hmm.
opportunity that this board has really capitalized on. So I really want to make sure, that we walk away from this conversation understanding that. So Isaiah, as we think about, the Highland Park School District and it not being, unicorn is not a legal term, of course.
Hmm.
When you think about that, what is your perspective about what makes it so different? What makes HP so different that the community may need this explanation?
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for having me back. I also like the term unicorn because it is unique, but it's also beautiful in its own right.
Beautiful.
And I
Absolutely.
think that is why in part, why this conversation is so necessary. In a traditional district, which we are not, but in a traditional district, the district usually operates schools, right? Directly. The district is directly responsible for operating schools. HPSD is different. Our role is more complex. It is
Mhm.
layered in its makeup. And so the district has a responsibility as both a public school district that
Mhm.
deals primarily with the receipt of the tax revenue that comes from the
Mhm.
city, using that revenue to offset opportunities for educational opportunities throughout the course of the city, and while simultaneously having the responsibility of authorizing schools, which
Mhm.
currently it authorizes Barber Preparatory Academy and provides oversight over the board of directors. So this is important too, I think, as part of the discussion, is that the board is the board of education who
Yes.
oversees the board of directors who
Mhm.
are responsible for the direct governance and oversight of the school. And then the management company operates the school day to day. And so it's part of Barber Prep is part of a larger structure. We as the district, we as the board of education, and even myself as the chief education officer, we are not responsible for the day-to-day operations, and
Mhm.
that's a line that we have to walk very clearly, because there are also legal ramifications in how our district is formalized that we have to be cautious with. And so our job is providing, if you will, the structure for the school to operate in, and then from a district standpoint, as the board of education, is to use the resources provided to create further educational opportunities for the community of Highland Park at large, right? And so being able to handle both of those balls in the air at the same time. So as a result of these two lanes, if you will,
Mhm.
it really requires a need for us to be very clear on what our role is in governance, reporting, protocols, and communication, because it is layered, and we need to make sure that everyone stays in their proverbial lane. Because when we cross over into other lanes, we cause accidents, right? And so,
Absolutely.
so understanding that we all have a lane to operate in that, if done well, really can bolster a lot of progress and a lot of opportunity for the city of Highland Park at large.
Absolutely. So if I may just revisit some of the things you said. So Mr. Petway, you said that there are three components, if you will. You have the Highland Park District, and
Mhm.
you are operating as an authorizer of the charter school barber, but also you are having to address some of those accountability issues that you have as a district. So there are many layers, right? And so we want to
Yes.
make sure that that is what the community walks away with, is that there are many layers. And let's be candid here. The district did not necessarily want to become complicated. It did not
Hmm.
want to have the several layers, but it was offered as an opportunity for the district to continue as an entity to operate in the
Yes.
city of Highland Park. So that is, the thing we want to understand about the structure. And as you said, it's a unicorn. It is different, but it's also beautiful.
Yeah. And
So yes,
I'm sorry.
please.
If
No,
I
please.
could just add to what you're saying, it was offered as an opportunity, and it has worked. The board has worked that structure, and it's allowed the district to get to the very solid place that the district is in right now, as we now are able to talk about expansion and doing new and innovative things, as President Sanford often says, to build back better. Right now, we're in a
Absolutely.
position to do that, because that opportunity, the board took advantage of, and really made some progress.
Absolutely. And you bring us to a good point. We're going to celebrate some of those things later, but let's talk about rebuilding. So when we talk about rebuilding and we talk about the layered structure, and we don't want to look at it as complicated, but it is a unicorn.
Mhm.
President Sanford, when you think about that, what are some of the major accomplishments that you've made in stabilizing the district operations in plain language? What would be one of the major accomplishments that has come for the stabilization?
I think the main thing has been really stabilizing the financial situation for the district.
Mm-hmm.
And that has, there were many, it's not that one person did it alone. It has really been over the last, I would say, maybe 10 years of hard work, developing a deficit elimination plan that was acceptable to the state, that is overseen by the state, and that the district has been able to adhere to.
Mm-hmm.
And because we managed, it's just like managing your finances at home.
Mm-hmm.
You got to learn to balance the checkbook, and you have to learn to live within your means. And for so many years, that was not the case with the district, where they were
Yes.
really struggling financially. We've learned to live within our budget.
Mm-hmm.
And because we did that, and also because we've seen an increase in property taxes in the city of
Mhm.
Highland Park. So we have additional tax revenue coming in, which is a good thing and hopefully a good sign of progress in the city. But because we have those additional dollars coming in, we've been able to pay off our operating deficit 6.5 years ahead of schedule,
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Say
which
that
is
again. Can you say that again?
6.5 years ahead of schedule.
Yeah. I
Um,
think that warrants a moment, a
that
pause.
that
Yes, it
that
does.
is
Yes,
That's
it
it
fair.
is it
does.
is huge. It
Absolutely.
is huge because
Absolutely.
at one point when you're talking about being millions of dollars in debt, it just seems insurmountable.
Yes. Yes.
But we've
Yes.
gone from surviving to now thriving
Absolutely.
because we managed our finances, with oversight from the state. But the board returned to local control in 2018. It has been up to the board, in partnership, working with our CEOs, to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that we are sticking to our budget. And
Absolutely.
we've been able to invest, I think, number two, in addition to managing our finances, which is huge. The
Absolutely.
second thing that has really allowed us to stabilize things and to move forward is investing in professional development for our board. Because, we're all Highland Parkers, we all love our city, but everyone doesn't have the same level of experience.
Right.
People come from all different walks of life. Not everyone has served on a board before. They haven't been in a decision-making capacity before. So one of the things that we've been able to do over the years, and especially in the last few years, is really focus more on professional development, because we need that foundation for our
Yes.
members to really understand policy, both state policy, state laws, our board policies and procedures. So we've spent a lot of time working on any gaps in our policies and procedures, working with you as our governance specialist to help us customize training sessions and conversations like the one we're having tonight, to explain to people why the structure of the Highland Park School District is different. So we
Yes.
go to training sessions, local, some national training sessions. Highland Park is always the unicorn in the room.
Mm-hmm.
There are very
Absolutely.
few other districts, even nationally, there are very few other districts who have the same composition that we do.
Mhm.
So we can always learn information. We can look at what people are doing in districts like ours around the country, how they've been able to rebuild.
Mhm.
We bring all of that expertise back and say, how can we apply it here? What can we do? So I think the professional development piece has been really critical for us. Customizing training sessions specific to our needs in the district, specific to the composition of our board, has been really critical. And I've seen the growth and development, especially for a lot of our newer board members who
Yeah.
came in with a great deal of enthusiasm, but not really understanding roles and responsibilities.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we've been able to create a template. And, as you keep adding to that governance booklet for us, so that we have that as new board members come in, we now have a better understanding of how we want them trained, what information
Absolutely.
we need to make sure that they have on the front end. And
Absolutely.
when I look back at my experience, I was appointed when we still had an emergency manager. So I never saw the bylaws until years later, because the
Mhm.
thought was, well, we're not operating a traditional school district. You don't need the bylaws. So, just not having a lot of that training on the front end, that, it would have been helpful. Even during emergency management, you still need to understand,
Mhm.
basic
Mhm.
school
Mhm.
policy, state
Mhm.
law, all of that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. So we're making up for lost time over the last couple of years in making sure that we are, as we grow and expand, that we provide those opportunities for personal growth and development for our board members as well. And I think it is paying off when you look at how we've been able to stabilize the district and really
Absolutely.
move things forward.
Absolutely. And what's essential in that, as you said, that the stabilization, it's not showy, right? The work that you guys did of stewardship, the work that you did in professional development, all of those things are things that are being done sometimes behind the scenes that people can't visibly see, and they can't necessarily appreciate that, but you can see the work that's happening. Governance is not intuitive, is what I tell people. Governance is not intuitive. It can be complicated at times, but it is something that can be embraced and learned. So, the investment in professional development is absolutely essential. Very quickly, Mr. Petway, can you give me maybe a couple of more things that is not necessarily so visible to the public that has really led to the stabilization and the thriving that you guys are moving into at this point? Mr. Petway? Uh-oh, did we have a snafu there?
Am I,
You're
am I here?
moving. You're
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 back.
back. You're back.
I'm back.
I don't know what
I don't
happened.
know.
You're
I,
back.
I don't know what happened. My apologies. It was
No, no,
President
no, no.
Sanford was so President Sanford was so eloquent. I guess I needed to let that sit there for a moment.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Well, come
um,
on with what those
Yeah.
things that you believe have
but
that have added to, if you will.
yeah, I think one of the major areas, and I think this is important to note because it impacts just not just the school district as it operates now, but for years past, is the digitization project. When the district was closed and then reorganized, records for the district were in shambles. They were all
Mhm.
over the place. We could not effectively serve our alumni with any records requests that they might have, just records from the district as a whole. There were records in various buildings, all those kinds of things. So one
Wow.
of the things that the board and the district, even prior to my coming here, and I want to make sure that's clear because this has been a long ongoing effort to stabilize the area of records. And so the board, along with the district, initiated a digitization project where all of the records were brought in and they have been digitized, where now we will be able to electronically access those records, be able to serve our alumni and the community, to keep track of those kinds of things, and provide, we're able to provide diplomas now for people who
Mhm.
graduated 20, 30, 40 years ago, and transcripts to help community members as they're applying to jobs and to careers and things like that. And so it puts us in a place again where we're functioning and operating as a district should, and that had to be intentional. And we were able to partner with the state. Michigan Department of Treasury gave us, we were awarded a grant for several years to offset the cost of that process. And so it is really work to help stabilize the historical institution, if you will, of the district, and put us in a place where we're able, one, to have information to make informed decisions about what's going on in the district based on where we've come from, and to help us to take care and provide information more effectively. And so it has been, I believe, a major accomplishment for us to be able to do that. And it puts us in a position where we're able to be more transparent with the community, provide resources regarding how the district operates, compliance, and all of those things. And I think that has really provided a solid foundation for the district to operate from.
Yeah, yeah. And that is huge, right? And those are things that people will not see unless you're interfacing with the district for your diploma or for a transcript, but those things are happening, and it's really essential. So we've talked about some of the projects, we've talked about governance and leadership development and professional development. And also you've mentioned a couple of partnerships, right? There are things that have been done and even a grant. I want to kind of jump over from the district side to the authorizer side, if I may take a moment to do that.
Sure.
So when you think about being an authorizer and you think about your role as an authorizer, specifically right now for Barber Preparatory Academy, and potentially for additional schools in the future, why, Mr. Petway, do you think authorization and reauthorization are such an important part of the governance responsibility?
Oh, great question. So authorization is not just a function of paperwork, right? It's not just checking boxes and turning in sheets of paper. The process of authorization is a governing body giving its seal of approval that a school group has what is needed to function effectively as a school and to meet the needs of a particular group of students in a community. And so it is a huge responsibility. It is a huge undertaking, right? Which is why it has to be handled in phases. And every phase of that is important because it is not just having a school. There is a community responsibility tied to authorizing a school and subsequently being a partner with that school to ensure that the school continues to meet the expectations and make progress for children. So it involves oversight, accountability, ensuring academic expectations, compliance, performance monitoring, all of these things that have to occur on a regular basis. This is as you said, this is the backdoor work. This is not the work that's necessarily seen in the public. And one of the unique things about being an authorizer that charters schools is we have, depending on how long a school is authorized for, we have the opportunity to come back and assess that school. That's what reauthorization is. Reauthorization is an opportunity to stop and say, okay, based on what the goals were, based on the expectations set by the contract, based on the expectations set by the state, has this school functioned the way that it's meant to? Is this school meeting the needs of the community, meeting the needs of children? Are they performing academically? Are they financially solvent and establishing a strong financial base to operate from, not just now but in the future? And you're able to assess that, and the board is able to then make a decision as to whether or not the school needs to continue to operate and be authorized by the district. And so again, it is a heavy burden and responsibility
Mhm.
that we have to authorize schools and reauthorize schools. And so it connects directly to outcomes, student outcomes and performance outcomes for the school. And so our goal in that is to not just be, though, for lack of a better term, the big brother.
Mhm. Mhm.
We also partner with the schools that we authorize to help undergird them to be successful. We're not looking to play the gotcha game
Mhm.
because educating children is a heavy lift,
Yes, it is.
and it's an all hands on deck situation. And so we look at ways to partner with our schools right now, particularly Barber Prep. How do we support them? How do we provide them with resources and training and support to continue to do the very hard work that they're doing? And so we want to ensure that they are making progress and adding to the overall educational landscape of the entire city of Highland Park, because we believe that, rising tides raise all boats, right? And so
Absolutely.
we want to make sure that the district is doing its part to help the school, although we're not responsible for the day-to-day operations,
Correct.
as we authorize and reauthorize, being a partner to help them do just that.
Absolutely. And you bring up a major point, that I just want to lift and make sure that the community understands. When you think about the charter school movement in itself, it started because of two reasons: for schools to have autonomy and innovation. And even though the Highland Park School District does not have schools in the traditional sense, you are, as you said, really a big part of student outcomes. You're
Mhm.
making a difference for the students that are in the community. And that's really important. So when you think about being a district and being the Board of Education, when you think about being the authorizer, in addition to that, that structure requires a different type of board discipline. It
Mhm.
requires a different part of board focus. So we want to make sure that people understand that as you think about the district, don't try to compare it to a traditional district. You can't do that. This is a unicorn, as we continue to say, but we have, and I excitedly say, a group of individuals who are well suited for the task. So, having said that, I want to move into the celebration part. I can't wait to get to this part, right? When you think about this financial stewardship that we talked about in the recovery, I want to dig into that a little bit more.
Mhm.
When you think about Highland Park School District in the story, it matters because the district has made some serious progress. It has made serious progress in stabilizing the finances. And again, as we all know, if you don't have money, it's not much moving. You
Mhm.
you need
Mhm.
money, to make things happen, and the district has been able to do that. President Sanford, so when you think about the accomplishments and moving the financial accounts to investments to continue to generate money for the district, when you think about some of those things that was done, that again was not necessarily visible to the public, right? Unless they were really digging in. When you think about some of those intentional acts that were done, why does that matter? Why does that matter to the financial solvency of the district?
Well, it matters, again, as we were working to pay off a lot of money. And to be clear, we still have long-term debt that we are
Mhm.
repaying to the state. So part of our
May
responsibility
I
is
jump
to,
in there too, though, and say you have some debt, but you have a fund balance?
we do have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
fund. We,
I
we do
felt
have,
that thing.
I've
yeah.
sent you the bill
You
part.
felt it. I
We
felt it.
do,
I felt
we
it
have a
too.
fund balance for the first time in, it was
14 years?
14, 15 years,
Monumental.
somewhere in there.
Monumental.
That is,
Forgive me for interrupting you. I just had to
yes,
throw that in there. I was feeling it.
thank you.
Mhm,
That,
mhm.
that is huge. That is huge for us. And the surplus, the positive fund balance, I believe it's going to end up more than we thought it was. Mr.
Yes.
Petway, correct me if
No, you're
it's,
absolutely right.
it's over, dare we say
It,
it's over 500,000 by the,
it's actually I just got numbers in. We're actually at about $600,000.
wow.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Never, I personally, I've been on the board since 2015. I wasn't always sure I would see this during my tenure on the board, seriously.
Mhm.
Never sure I would see this. So again, because of that we've been good stewards. And again, it wasn't just the current team in place. This has been,
Certainly,
everyone who has served the district,
certainly.
everyone who has served on the board over the last 14, 15 years has helped make this possible. So everyone gets to take a victory lap.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
you know, and hopefully they always take the time to celebrate all of the hard work that we've done. So
Absolutely.
one of the things that has been possible because we have been good stewards is we had a lot of when the district closed, we had a lot of student activity funds that were kind of, all these little funds. Some were scholarship funds, other activity funds, and the money was just sitting there because it can only be used for student activities. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to create a scholarship fund for our students, and we're calling it the Highland Park Promise Scholarship, where you know the promise zones are slightly different, but because we have our own funding to start with, again, that money was just sitting there. It's a couple $100,000 that can't be used for anything else. Because our students, we don't have a high school yet, although we're working on it. But because we don't currently have a high school, our students are dispersed to high schools in other communities. Some of those communities have scholarships. They are in
Mhm.
promise zones. The Detroit Promise is probably the most famous of the local promise zones. Our students who graduate from Detroit Public Schools can't take advantage of that because they live in Highland Park.
Mhm.
So our students are being disenfranchised, and it's important for us to make that investment in our students and for them to understand that we value them. We value higher education. So we want to take that money and create a scholarship fund that will benefit high school age students who live in Highland Park, who are graduating and planning to go on to a community college, a university, a trade school,
Mhm.
whatever your passion is. We just want you to be able to go on and pursue post-secondary education. So we are in the process of setting up that scholarship fund right now. The board did approve it. So we're gonna take that money that has been sitting there, um, gathering interest, I might add.
Yeah.
So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's been growing, and now it's time for us to do something with it. We want to continue to support that. So one of the things about having a positive fund balance is that we can continue supporting that fund in addition to raising funds through more traditional methods. We'll be reaching out to our business community, to other foundations to ask us to ask for support. But I think it's really critical that, we have to be able to help ourselves. And some other school districts in the state of Michigan were fortunate enough to have their debt paid off.
Mhm.
Highland Park was not that fortunate. We're still hoping. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And we've worked with our state legislators to make sure that they continue to advocate for us. But in the meantime, we're going to continue doing what we do. And the additional tax revenue means additional programming and support for our district schools. So again, even though we are, as authorizers, we don't directly run the schools, but as Mr. Petway pointed out, we partner with Barber Preparatory Academy. We partner with the
Mhm.
BOD, with the
Absolutely.
management company, because at the end of the day, we are all pulling in the same direction, which is
Yes.
for the students. And we still own the building.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
any investment we make in the infrastructure of the building, which we've also, the media center, we've put in some additional security measures, whatever we can do to support infrastructure improvements to create an environment that is conducive to learning.
Absolutely.
The Promise Scholarship, which is huge.
Huge.
That has
huge.
been, I think, one of the
Huge.
most exciting.
Agreed.
It's been a very good year.
Absolutely.
For us to be able to make that announcement and also look at how else can we support academic improvements at the school.
Absolutely.
What else do we need to do? And that gives us a little more operating cash to be able to do that, to reinvest in the community and reinvest in our students.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, I mean, giving us some great insight and information, right? Paying off the debt, consolidating funds, partnering with Barber for some of those things, the Promise Scholarship, all of those things are exciting news. They are really exciting. Mr. Petway, I want to ask you, all of those things, what does it signal about Highland Park School District at this point? What does it say about the direction that the district is going in?
I say it says that we are going in the direction of putting children first. That when you are when you are in debt, when you have an operating deficit, it's very difficult to leverage your resources to offset the needs that you're trying to meet for your students. And so, what this has allowed us to do is it has allowed us to be in a position to effectively move toward the strategic goals of the district, improving K-8 programming for students, looking at establishing a high school in the city limits of Highland Park, partnering with community colleges to bring in skilled trades and things of that sort. So all of those strategic goals that the district has set, by being financially solvent, by being on financial solid footing, it puts us in a position to be able to go after those things with vengeance. And it is a very exciting time to be able to do that. It also signals, I think, to the community that as President Sanford mentioned earlier, that we are being good stewards, that those funds that are being given to us from their tax dollars are actually being used to improve the quality of services within the city of Highland Park, not just to the students that we currently serve by way of authorizing Barber Prep, but also to the district as a whole. Because, for example, the Highland Park Promise Scholarship is going to be available to any student who lives in the city limits of Highland Park and graduates high school. That's for the larger community. We're working through the specifics of trying to partner to bring again the community college back to the city. That's going to be for any resident within the city of Highland Park. So it puts us in a position not just to meet the educational needs of the students that we currently serve, but it puts us in a position to be able to look at what we can do educationally for the community as a whole, therefore improving Highland Park as a city as a whole,
holistically,
right? And
absolutely,
yes, holistically. And so
absolutely,
it's not just dollars and cents in the grand scheme of things. It is literally being able to leverage resources to better serve the community that we're in.
Absolutely. And that's a huge part of the unicorn story. So when we talk about Highland Park School District, it's not just unique because of the structure, even though the structure is very unique. One of the things that we have to highlight and celebrate is the fact that the district has been rebuilding financial stability while simultaneously, not separate apart from, while simultaneously carrying the responsibilities of being a district, being an authorizer, and those community things that are being done, if you will, from the board's perspective. Let's shift to students, right? Because when we think about a district, when we think about the unique structure, there is still, as you said, a focus on children first. So as we look at that, if I may ask you again, I'm going to pull on you, Mr. Petway, as the Chief Educational Officer. May I ask you, what are some of the things? I know that there's a lot that goes on, right, at Barber in terms of supports that are needed. And the board has been really intentional, if I may use that word, intentional about addressing some of those things that may be barriers for the school or barriers for the students. And I think about, in particular, transportation services that
Mhm.
were a challenge at some point for those students receiving special education.
Yeah.
All of those types of things. And I don't want to just throw them all out there, but if you can kind of give us a soft explanation of what those things are and why it's important for the BOE, the Board of Education, to be concerned about some of those things, even though they do not run the day-to-day operations of Barber.
Absolutely. I think it goes back to what President Sanford said earlier, that although we're not responsible for the day to day, we have a direct interest in ensuring that the educational opportunities within the confines of the city are sufficient to meet the needs of all of the individuals that we come in contact with. And so, think that some of the things that the district has had to grapple with, and I think has successfully done so, as you mentioned, transportation services for students who receive special services as they go to other districts, providing them that opportunity. It was a hefty investment. This last year it was over $100,000. This coming year we're looking at closer to $200,000 of an investment to ensure that those students, although they're not going to a school in the district, because they are in the service area of Highland Park, we have a responsibility to make sure that those kids are still getting the services that they need. So looking at things like transportation, also looking at things such as the opportunity for activities beyond the school itself. So providing them opportunities to expand and explore. Those are things that the district has directly invested in, but also their safety. Making sure that students not only can come to a school where they're going to learn, but they can come to a school that's safe. And so the Board of Education invested a significant amount of money in infrastructure upgrades, including rebuilding and building out a whole new entranceway to the building so that we can ensure safety and safety protocols for the students to ensure that both students and staff at the school are safe. Looking at how those opportunities and those investments directly impact, doing things like, for example, putting the new roof on, putting in a new boiler, all of those kinds of things, again, that the public doesn't necessarily see, but are huge investments from the district to ensure that students have a safe, comfortable, functioning environment to come and learn in. And so we can't do that without being financially solvent, having a strong financial footing, and continuing to look for opportunities to improve our educational service offerings to our students and to the community as a whole. So it shows that the district, it really is paying attention to students. We still offer support, although we don't deal with students directly. Support is coming from the district and from the district's resources to help them both in school and out of school. We also are looking at how we can extend the opportunities that we're creating to the entire community of the city of Highland Park.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. And President Sanford, I'm going to ask you to kind of piggyback on that from a different perspective. And if I may get a little bit of personal, when you all engaged me with the board, one of the larger conversations was about the facility at Barber. That permeated many of the board meetings with some repairs, with some renovations and those things that were being done. But what I can say is that you were very intentional about making sure that those upgrades occurred and that the investment was being made into the building. From your perspective,
Yes.
President Sanford, can you say why that matters in the larger story for Highland Park School District? Speak to, the investment in the facilities and some of the decisions that were made to be intentional about doing that.
I think when you're putting children first, because we also meet in that building.
Mhm.
So there's a huge difference from walking in to attend a meeting now than it was maybe 5 years ago.
Mhm. Mhm.
We made some repairs prior to that, But we really decided to be more intentional because my feeling was, would I have wanted to go to school here as a kid? And I did attend Cortland as a little wee tot. How would I have felt attending a school, walking in here every day, and it maybe doesn't smell as clean as it could. It's not as bright. There just a lot of things that when you see it through the eyes of a child, that tells me adults don't care about me.
Mm-hmm.
So we started again with and this is working in partnership with the BOD, with Excel,
Mm-hmm.
to, clean, paint, renovate, do whatever we can to make the interior of the school look better. Again, it's more conducive to learning. You want to be in a safe, clean, well-lit environment. Renovating the bathrooms
Mm-hmm.
was huge, because we use those facilities as well. And I'm thinking, we probably, this bathroom hasn't been upgraded probably, in many, many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say to the students, to the
Yeah,
families
certainly.
who
Mm-hmm.
are coming in? Hopefully they understand that we care about the scholars, that we care enough to make that investment in them. Again, renovating the media center. Excel renovated the cafeteria. The gym has been renovated. We just put in a new sound system in the gym so they can have events there. It's an older school building, but we've done the best that we can to make modern improvements. And, just because it's an old building doesn't mean that it has to be dilapidated and falling down. The security improvements, because that's something that the board collectively agreed on, that we need to do that. Renovating the elevator. I think all of it tells students that these people seriously care about me, they care about my future.
Yes.
I think those infrastructure improvements are huge, and we just recently had an appraisal of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So from a dollars and cents perspective, it also makes sense for us to maintain our property.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that we are good citizens, that we maintain the exterior of our property, we maintain the interior of the property,
Mm-hmm.
because I personally want children to feel good about coming to that building. We've done
Absolutely.
the best that we can. Aside from building a whole new school building, we've done the best that we can. And I think the staff there, the team on the ground every day at the school has done a phenomenal job. I feel it when I walk into the school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just it's a different vibe. Even all of the artwork from the students, the billboard, all the positive messaging that we see in the school, that
Mm-hmm.
impacts me as well when I notice the difference when I walk in as an adult. The
Absolutely.
media center before the transformation, I was always thinking, do kids even come in here and use, everything is old, it's outdated, and that was a huge investment, and I think it was worth it. So
Absolutely.
hopefully all of that makes it, just creates an environment where children are happy to be there,
Absolutely.
and they
Absolutely.
understand that we care about their future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And facilities are not separate from academics. That is something that I think that
Yes,
we all know. And
yes,
so we see the difference, and it connects back to governance. Even though the Board of Education does not manage every detail about the facility or about the building. You do make decisions about the investments, the priorities, and how long term you're going to address those things. I have to
Yes.
tell you guys, we've been having such a good time. We are long past over our time. So I feel like, let me just say, I feel like this is moving into a two-part series. So we
I
may have to have a two-part because the remainder of the information is so essential. We have to talk about it. We have to talk
Okay.
about it. We have to talk about the progress that has been made in relationship building. I don't think that there's any way that this story of growth and going from surviving to thriving it could not have been possible without building relationships. Why do those relationships matter, President Sanford?
The relationships allow us to do the very best that we can do for the students we serve and their families.
Yes.
And I think that hasn't always been the case for the district. So part of sustaining our or stabilizing our finances and working on infrastructure improvements, I think we also had to rebuild the image of the district as an educational service provider.
Mm-hmm.
And I still get the question, oh, I didn't, when I say that I'm the president of the school board, and the response is, oh, I didn't know you still had schools in Highland Park.
Exactly.
Well, yes, we do have schools in Highland Park.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that everyone knows we have schools, all the good work that we're doing. And it's not you don't fix it overnight. It took a long time for the district to get to the point that it was in 2012 and to get to where it is now. We still have a lot of work to do, but we've been able to put out so many fires that we can now refocus our efforts on rebuilding relationships, such as the relationship we have with the city. Two separate entities, but our futures are really intertwined. It's hard to rebuild a city without a viable school district and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So we meet with Mayor McDonald regularly to talk about issues that impact both of us and where we can possibly work together. So that relationship is critical. I'm working with some of the other partner organizations that we work with in the community that provide those wraparound support services for students.
Absolutely.
Whether it's Wayne Metro, it's Avalon Village. There are a lot of other organizations in Highland Park that also provide wraparound support for our families. Michigan Works for individuals family members who may be looking for employment opportunities. So rebuilding those relationships, as Mr. Petway pointed out, working with community colleges to bring additional resources and educational opportunities to the district. Because again, if from my background in workforce development, one of the things that a company looking to move to Highland Park always wanted to know, am I going to be able to find a viable workforce? So as we move into, AI and more technological advances, we want to make sure that we have young people in our community that have the skills necessary to really be successful as we move forward. So building those relationships, working with the Wayne County chapter of the Links to provide additional wraparound support services for our students. Those relationships are critical to our success. And I think that Mr. Petway and I have done a lot of that work. And again, it's not just us, but we've really been intentional about that in the last 2 years. And I will say, people look at what we're doing. They, our meetings are streamed live on Facebook.
Yes.
You can always pull them up online. People are looking and watching. And that is the other thing that I hear from people in the community who, we may not have a lot of people showing up in person and you think people aren't paying attention, but the number of people who said they're watching our meetings and they see the progress, they see the growth. We've been able to really focus on that, and it makes me feel better that, you know, hold us accountable. We expect the public to hold us accountable. We're doing coffee and conversations now. So people can come on the fourth Thursday to the district office and have coffee and hopefully donuts.
Yeah.
Mr. Petway, we're going to have
Yes,
some donuts
ma'am.
tomorrow. Okay.
Absolutely.
And just have a more informal conversation, because sometimes you can't do that during the course of a board meeting when we're actually taking care of district business. But to, you know, if there are things that you want to talk about in a more intimate setting, we can certainly do that. So it's rebuilding our relationships with the community as well. Because again,
Absolutely.
people don't necessarily think Highland Park and quality education. They just don't.
Absolutely.
Not for a very long time. And we change that by building those relationships, having people hold us accountable, and delivering on what we said we want to do for this district.
Absolutely. And so you've mentioned several things. You talked about coffee and conversations, and hopefully
Yes.
we'll be able to explore that in a series in the future. You've spoken to the fact that this board has started to stream the board meetings live on Facebook. We are currently participating in the podcast series for this summer series. You know, the ambassadorship program, I think someone
Yes.
alluded to that earlier, and all of the partnerships. Mr. Petway, when you think about all of those things and anything else you may want to add, how does that add to rebuilding the community connection? What is the value? What are some of the fruit that you see or that you hope to receive from doing those very practical things? And let me just say this, I'm sorry, I have to hold that question.
Mhm.
I have to say, I have never met a harder working board president.
Agreed.
I
Agreed.
just need to throw that in there, because she has been instrumental in
Agreed.
all of those things and all of those
Yes.
connections and all of the conversations and all of the partnerships. And of course, that is a part of the responsibility of the president. But we can agree, and Mr. Petway, I think you and I can agree that she far
Wholeheartedly.
extends herself past
Yes.
you know, what people would assume would be the limitations of that work and the limitations of her seat. So I just want to say that. But going back, if I may
Thank
reiterate
you.
the question again, with all of those areas, what do you see as some of the fruit? What do you see as the benefit of all of those things, in others, if you want to mention those?
Yeah, I will say I often pick with President Sanford and tell her she responds to this like it's a full-time job.
Absolutely.
She does amazing, and it's such a great opportunity to work with someone who's so dedicated to seeing, you know, progress and things happen. I think at the heart of the relationships that we have built and continue to build, one of the major things, and President Sanford mentioned it, is the image shift of the district. When I first came on board and we first started working through this, it was literally said to us, this is no exaggeration, that people's response was, "Oh, here comes those Highland Park people again." Like that, it was very much that.
Yeah.
And we have gotten to the point now where we are invited to the table.
Yeah.
Where people are calling
Major.
us to come in and sit down and have conversations about investing in the community, investing in our schools, investing in the district, and how we can partner with that together. So I think that that's part of the fruit. The other fruit is having an informed community. One of the other things that we've done is we've had the day of dialogue, where we've invited the to have an open discussion with
I'm sorry,
the
Mr.
board.
Petway. I'm sorry, technology got the best of you for a moment.
Oh.
So you were speaking to the day of dialogue. I wanted to make sure that the community heard
Yes.
that. So if you could go again, please.
My apologies. I am in the district office. I don't know if we're having internet issues or not. So please excuse
Listen,
me. But
everybody turns their TV on around this time, and so your
True.
bandwidth starts to shrink. But go ahead there. Mhm.
But so we've had the day of dialogue where we invited the community in to have an open dialogue with us about where the district was, where we were trying to take the district, and to get feedback from them about what they wanted to see from the district and their community. And out of that came 4 distinct goals of what we were going to do and work towards. And I think the fruit of that is not just that we produce these goals, but the fruit is that on all 4 goals that we established, we have made progress,
Absolutely.
significant progress,
Mhm.
in the last 2 years on those things. And so, being able to have the community be a part and invested in what we're doing, and an informed community, the school district can only grow as much as the community around it invest in it. And so having our community aware, partnering with them, and not just our immediate community, our state legislature is involved with us. We have a wonderful
Yes.
relationship with Representative Taya Myers Phillips. She is amazing. She's helped us tremendously. Senator Chang, we've worked with her, and then even to the Michigan Department of Treasury, Mr. Erd
Yes.
there, Kevin Smith, who had a previous relationship with the district and continues to support what we're doing, right on up into the governor's office and to the State Department of Education. We have gotten to a place where all of those facets of relationships that really impact what we do, we've been able to improve and glean a lot of resources for our community and for the
Yes.
district as a whole.
Yes.
And so I believe it has been extremely fruitful. And we're starting to see those things come to fruition. The Highland Park Promise. I mean, that came as a part of
Monumental.
relationship from our building a relationship with the Michigan College Access Network. We reached out to the Chamber of Commerce, who runs the Detroit Promise, and they came and said, we'll meet with you and try to help you figure out how to do this for your city. So I think it's being fruitful as we're seeing those things come to fruition.
Absolutely. And it cannot be understated. It cannot be said enough, right? We don't want to undermine the importance of the difference from being invited into the room to being an annoyance in the room, right?
Yes.
We cannot
Yes.
overstate how important that is for building Highland Park, not just the district, but the community at large. And there's so much work that's being done behind closed doors that people may not be privy to. So let me just make my announcement now. I have failed this evening as a timekeeper. And so we may as well throw caution to the wind. So as we wrap up in the next few minutes here, that I want to do a quick round of myth versus reality, a round robin. Please feel free to jump in. I'm going to read a question, and then you can feel free to jump in, either one of you, to respond to that question. So myth number
I
one.
like this.
You like it?
Uh-oh.
It's a
I like
game show.
this.
I wish I had a
Okay.
buzzer or something. We need a buzzer.
All right.
We need a buzzer or something. But so the first myth that we have here is that because Highlands Park School District is so unique, that it's a unicorn, it is impossible to understand. What's the reality?
False.
That's a myth. It's false.
Yes.
So it's unique, but it is structured in such a way where the Board of Education, the district, is able to support both the community at large and has a specific responsibility to authorizing children and providing governance and oversight. So there are two distinct lanes that function in two separate roles, but they're very easy to understand. If you think one is larger community and one is directly to provide educational opportunity to students, not directly, but oversight and governance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would not have asked for a better response. Myth number two, the board either controls everything or you are in control of nothing. What's the reality?
I was going to let
False.
President Sanford go for that.
Here, I'll do the short answer, and then you can give the explanation, Mr. Petway.
Sure.
So that is not true.
Correct. That is not
Yeah.
true. And that is not true.
So the board has specific governance authority, and it has the authority to set policy and procedures that govern how the district operates. But it does not manage the day-to-day, the everything that goes on. But it is required by both statute and by its own bylaws to monitor, approve, oversee, ask necessary questions, and protect the public interest. So it's not the role is not everything, but it's also not nothing, double negative there, but it's governance, right? And that's what is the myth buster, if you will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Myth number 3. I almost feel like I need to answer this one. Old financial problems mean that the district cannot move forward. We just spent, the better portion of our
Yes.
time talking about the progress that has been, the wonderful progress that has been made in the district, paying off that debt, moving forward, being able to have a sizable fund balance that keeps you with programs that are supporting students. Progress has not been erased. It's not stopped, but the district is definitely moving forward. So I felt like I had to say something about that, just to say
Mhm.
kudos to you guys. Myth number 4: if the district is not traditional, it cannot serve students. Is that true?
I would say that's not true. We just serve them in a different capacity.
Thank
So we
Absolutely.
you.
don't provide direct oversight, hands-on. A parent has a concern about something that happened at the school. We're not the first. We get those calls, and we've worked hard with our board members to help them understand. Yes, it's a member of the community. It could be your neighbor who is bringing you a complaint, but we need to follow the process in order for that issue to be resolved, because we don't handle the day-to-day operations at the school.
Absolutely.
Now, if obviously, if this becomes a concern that is not being addressed by the management company, by the board of directors, that's something we will address, but we will address it appropriately with the board of directors, who will address it with the management company. So it's not that we're not addressing those concerns, but there's a protocol for everything. And
Absolutely.
we just want to make sure that those policies and procedures are being followed, because I look at policy as a good thing, because it protects both of us.
Yes.
Absolutely essential.
And if
Absolutely.
you are following the policy, you generally keep yourself out of trouble.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we've skipped over a little bit of that conversation just for the essence of time, but we will revisit it in the future because, excuse me, what you said is really important about escalation. There are
Hmm.
protocols and there are steps for escalation, and escalation to the Board of Education is not always necessary.
Right.
So as we take a look at that, good information is really important for us to discuss these myths because of the fact that there's so much that's circulating. There's so much that's out there that people are discussing without clear communication, without the facts, that sometimes it undermines the work that the board is trying to do. So we're going to try to
Absolutely.
land this plane. Let's see what happens. So as we start to close, I want both of you to offer a reflection, if you would. President Sanford, when you consider the things that we've discussed, when you've considered, what we've been looking at this evening, what is one thing
Yes.
that you want the community to really understand about Highland Park School District and its unicorn status? What is one thing that you really want the public to understand?
I think our unicorn status gives us the ability to be creative, responsive,
Mm-hmm.
and really design an educational service delivery system that meets the needs of our community, because I think Highland Park is also unique.
Mm.
I've
Hmm.
lived here all my life, and I've seen good times, bad times, but I think that the city is poised for a renaissance. I think the school district needs to be part of that. And I
Yes.
think whatever that renaissance is for Highland Park, it doesn't necessarily look like it does in Detroit or Hamtramck or Ferndale or Royal Oak or any of those other communities, because Highland Park has a very unique history.
Yes.
Um, it's the birthplace of mass production.
Yeah.
It is the
Yeah.
birthplace of so many firsts in this country. And I think we don't always embrace our history.
Mm-hmm.
We should, but I think we don't always embrace our history. I think we need to look at what the next Highland Park 2.0,
Hmm.
what that looks like.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of possibilities, and I feel very optimistic. I feel
Mm-hmm.
very hopeful about what comes next for the city, and also what comes next for the school district, and how we play a really pivotal role in that, and developing leaders who are going to take the city to the next level.
Absolutely.
In this region, because no matter where I go, in the state of Michigan, and I work all over the state, I always meet somebody who grew up in Highland Park. I lived in
Yeah.
Highland Park, or I used to play in Highland Park. They always
Yeah.
have some connection to Highland Park. I think
Absolutely.
we continue to build on that. And I think there are people who are supportive, who are pulling for us, who want to see Highland Park succeed. We just,
Absolutely.
we have to change our mindset, but I think that there are people who want to see Highland Park
Absolutely.
succeed and who want to see the school district succeed. I do believe
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. The district is different, but is by no means deficient. And I think
Absolutely.
that has got to be the mantra that people rally around and that they support. So, Mr. Petway, when you think about all that we've discussed, what are your hopes? What do you hope for the current board members, for future board members? We talked about being a board member in the last series, even with the community. What do you hope that they remember about Highland Park School District?
That it is indeed an opportunity. That
Mhm.
through all of the challenges, what we are faced with now is an opportunity to innovate, an opportunity to invest, an opportunity to really make a difference in the lives of children and families throughout the city of Highland Park. I would hope that board members specifically would remember that they are trustees, and being a trustee, the first part of that is trust.
Trust.
That individuals have to be trusted with the response, and they're not just trustees of anything. They are trustees of the educational opportunities that are to be provided in the city of Highland Park, and that for the most vulnerable in our society, which are our children, our scholars. And so approaching that with a sense of humility and duty, with an intention on providing governance that meets the needs of those students, and understanding that every decision should be governed by the single question: is this putting children first?
Yeah.
If it is not putting children first, then it is too expensive for us to give our attention to, because the work of the district, the work of the Board of Education, is to uplift this community by way of ensuring that students are provided with what they need. And that's a heavy lift. It is a daunting task, but I believe that the individuals who are here, and hopefully the individuals that come, are uniquely positioned and skilled to be able to do that if we focus our attention on doing just that. So I am extremely excited about where we are. I'm extremely
Absolutely.
excited about the future
Mhm.
of the district. And to be honest with you, Vanessa, I'm just humbled to be a part of it.
Absolutely. I concur. I concur. Thank you. It could not have been better said. And I really believe that Highland Park is entering into its eye of the tiger moment. I really believe that some of the
I
changes that are
believe that.
forthcoming are going to be monumental and so valuable for the scholars, for the community, and just for, the future. Having visionaries at the table makes all the difference in the world. So thank you both. Thank you both so much for this conversation. I believe that we have taken a moment to really demonstrate how Highland Park School District, even though it's unique, the uniqueness is not just a challenge. It's also a responsibility and an opportunity. It was gifted, maybe not with that intention when it was done, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how. Right, that we started on this path, but I think that the path has been very well fitted for the community and has been actually a blessing for the community. So we've been reminded that Highland Park School District, it's a unicorn district, not just because of how it operates, and it doesn't operate traditional district schools, but it's unique through a combination of history. We got a little bit of that from you, President Sanford, the financial recovery story, which I think should be plastered in every newspaper in southeastern Michigan. The structural change, the leadership development, looking at how the authorizer's office has grown, everything that has been done to rebuild the district and its operations, it has been monumental. And I think that, taking moments like this to tell that story is so incredibly important. So we apologize ahead of time that we've gone a little bit over schedule, but we'll create a part two series to this so that you can have an opportunity to hear of all the wonderful things that are being done in the district. So we thank you for spending this time with us. We look forward to what we are going to be doing in the next phase, in the next segment, if you will. As we look at our takeaways, we are a unicorn district, but we govern with discipline. Stewardship is a large part of that. Looking at protecting the district's future, keeping our students in the community at the center, and building that trust. So it's so important to do that. So thank you again, President Sanford. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
your time and your
Absolutely.
continued investment. Mr. Petway, thank you for all of that you're doing, for
My
joining this
pleasure.
conversation today. And thank you to all of you who have lasted to the end of this podcast.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for all of you who hung in
Thank
there
you.
just to hear it. And we hope that you continue to listen to this series, Summer Conversations in School Service and Stewardship. And hopefully you enjoy the little bit of fun and levity we have along the way, talking about some important things, but enjoying ourselves along the way. So thank you so much. This is the end of this episode. And please, I'll try to do better next time. on time management. We'll see. But I'll tell you what, when things are this good to talk about, you just can't help but to continue the conversation. So see you next
Absolutely.
time in our session
Thank
number
you.
3.
Thank you.
We look forward to having you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.